What is the difference between building wealth, and making money?
Like, you go to school for up to 20-something years of your life, and nobody's telling you how to actually spend your first salary.
The scripture actually talks so much about money, investing what we have. There's no doubt about that.
If I'd known what I knew today when I was 21, 22, I would be a billionaire.
It's like it's the kind of tension of stewardship. And the parable of the talents and investing with generosity. You can't give what's not yours.
A lot of us don't realize that we're giving other people unlimited access to our money.
Welcome to the Magnify Conversations. My name's Ruth, and I'm the founder and CEO of Magnify.
And my name's Rachel, and I'm one of the hosts of this show.
Magnify is a global community and content platform focused on equipping women like you to grow in and impact your sphere of influence. We truly want to see you thrive in all areas of life and want to display what faith can look like at the center of that too.
We started the conversations because we wanted to have real discussions about the things that matter. Money, relationships, and work, all through the lens of faith and our relationship with God.
Ultimately, we know as multifaceted women, things are rarely one size fits all. So we speak with many different women who are from our community and hear their stories. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Magnify Conversations.
This week, we have the honor of having Solafunmi in the Magnify Studio to talk practical tips for creating wealth.
Shola is a seasoned media tech and entertainment executive and is the CEO at Circo. She runs Wealth Motley, a platform reaching over 90,000 individuals teaching financial literacy.
We gained so much wisdom from Shola and felt really refreshed by her balanced yet powerful stance on building wealth to help our financial future and also being able to be a blessing to others.
Let's get into this conversation.
Ladies, I'm really excited for this conversation today. Shola, thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you here. We are going to be speaking about building wealth, investments, money, finance, and even just how that ties into spreading the gospel, who we are for us, certainly, as women of faith. So I'm excited about that. But first of all, as always, we are starting with an icebreaker. We will join in too. But I guess this one is actually for you, Shola. So what's the best book to help women with their finances?
The only book I tell, not only women, anybody in the world, please read The Richest Man in Babylon. That book, it's going to take you maybe 3 hours to finish, but I tell you, every single personal finance book ever written in the world took inspiration from that book.
Really?
One of the best books, trust me. And it's free. You can find it free anywhere. You don't have to buy it.
And it's free.
It's free. Like, you listen on YouTube, but there's free narrations of it everywhere. It's such a great book. Tiny book, but timeless wisdom.
Oh,
I love
perfect.
That.
we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
Changing lanes a little bit, what's your favorite hype song to get you motivated?
It depends where I'm going.
Yes.
If I'm working out...
What's the hype for?
It has to be like DMX. Like...
Girl!
Something like, you know, like any DMX... like anything that...
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind.
Yeah, it has to be something like that.
Nice.
So it depends what I'm about to do. Yeah. What about you?
So I'm such a huge fan of Kiss Daniel. Whatever he sings.
Oh, Kiss Daniel.
Like, I'm like, whatever he sings, so far it's not vulgar.
Yeah.
I'm his fan. So pick any of his songs. Yeah. I will be happy any day.
It's a hard one. I can never answer these questions. What's the situation? But the one that instantly came to mind was Just Fine by Mary J. Blige. I feel like it's such like I'm feeling good, I'm ready to go, we're here, it's going to work. I think if I had to be put down to it, that would be it. And then if you had to either revive or create a beauty-based business, what would you choose? Makeup, hair, or skincare?
1000% makeup.
Really?
Girl. I mean, I love skincare.
It's like, girl.
Makeup, and again, that's just the money part of me speaking.
Okay.
Not just because I like makeup, but just
from a business point
so
of
much
view.
you can do. And when you sell someone the idea of them looking better, look, most of the products we buy for makeup is made by essentially the same producers. It's just the name and code. And the way they sell it to us that's going to make us look. So skincare is great, but it only takes someone who wants to go beyond skin deep, beyond just the epidermis, the layer. But I would sell beauty any day, 1,000%, and we would make a lot of money.
I'll partner with you on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we just join your investment?
Yeah, I'm just going to join you on that.
I was going to say skincare.
Yeah,
I've changed my mind.
You changed your mind.
So persuasive.
You're very convincing. Oh, well, so good. So we're really excited to have this conversation. But why is it important to you that we're going to be talking about money, wealth, finance today?
Okay. So I feel like there's so many layers to money and finance. And the biggest way I can say that we have a problem, not only in spirituality or in the church, is the fact that it's just one topic that people are not talking about. Yeah. Like, you go to school for up to 20-something years of your life, and nobody's telling you how to actually spend your first salary. As a matter of fact, in this part of the world, you get into debt before you even start. Correct. You already, it's like someone is taking a loan against your life, so nobody's talking about it that way. And I feel like that's the number one reason for me. Number two is, even in the church, the Bible says that apart from God, the other spirit, either serve God or you serve mammon. Mammon is money.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not talking about this thing enough, and you find out that every single base, if I were to get a crowd of 100 Christians and to ask them to be very truthful about their prayers, finance will be like 99% will be finance. And we're not talking about, I find that we go to church, we pray about money and but we're not talking about how to create wealth. Because the language of heaven is not money. If you pray to God today to say that, please give me money, the language of heaven, money is just a means of exchange. But you see, the language of heaven is ideas. That's what I find. And when you tell God, sometimes he will give you, just alert, someone wakes up, remembers you and that's great. But when you want long-lasting wealth, you say, God, make me wealthy. Let me be wealthy. Let me have more than I can spend. Let me have more to give to your kingdom, to give away. That, what God will give you, go and mark it. Go back, try to remember years, something you prayed about. God will give you an idea.
I agree.
The problem we have is most of us we want money, we don't see that idea will turn to money. And that's the language of heaven. So heaven gives you an idea for you to take and turn into money in this world. So it's value. That's the thing. So until you are able to take that value that heaven has given you to turn it into money, usually that's where we get stuck. And that's what I feel like we're not getting heard enough. We're not speaking about enough. Turning what we have into wealth. If you look around you today, there's just something you can sell. Like, I remember my pastor saying that there's nowhere you are in the world. You can sell something. You can sell. It doesn't have to be physically selling. It's your mind. What ideas can you sell? What can you do? So that's really why I went into speaking about it. And to be honest with you, when I started talking about, when I was reading about money and investment, because again, I remember telling you guys off camera, I have a nursing background. I have 3 degrees in nursing. And then I went from there to casting the news, to being on TV, and then to working behind the scenes. So finance was never part of my stuff. But then I started praying because I used to sell everything. Most Nigerian women,
they know how to hustle.
We sell. So I have sold as much as you can imagine, from hair, clothes, shoes, makeup. I've imported stuff. I've even owned trucks. Those 15-ton trucks. I used to have 3 of them that used to go interstate. Imagine.
That's interesting though, because you're saying that it's been in you.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, it's something that, because I'm not gonna lie, that's not the average person. doesn't own trucks.
I know.
I mean, tell us about your early years. When do you think you had a passion for entrepreneurship or commerce or creating opportunities, building? Did you think you had a passion quite early?
Yes, look, I'll be honest. I just had a passion to make money.
Okay.
My mom was an entrepreneur. I mean, she used to be a custom agent or thereabout, and then she moved to having shop and selling clothes and all of those things. So quite an industrious woman. That's how she's always been. But for me, when I started working in corporate world and I think what inspired me the most was just because I felt like I was making money, but then I felt like I would look around me. Again, God bless my pastor. I always refer back to him. Remember listening to some of his preachers saying, it's good that you're working, but your work is a job. That's not like the main work God gave you. It's like a job. So I would look around me and try to find out, what did people need? And that's how I started to sell. So I remember coming back from the UK once, back to Nigeria, and I brought a box of clothes. They were mine, but I brought it to the office because I wanted to give some people. And I kid you not, in 15 minutes, the whole box of 32 kg then, when they used to give us a lot of stuff. Not now.
Not
we're like
heard of now.
32 kg was done. It was bought off. Right. So I'm like, people need clothes. And then I'll bring jewelry. So I used to sell all of those things, again, just for myself.
Yeah.
Not for anything. So I found that I remember my colleagues, funny enough, used to tell me that when we get paid, because I would sell to most people in my office around me and cool, depending on whatever it was I was selling at that point. And they used to say that they used to share their salaries with me, because what would happen was I would give you a payment plan, so it's easy. And then you cannot lie that you don't have money, because we all get paid on the same day. So I know that you have money. Now, in my note, once I see that you're about to finish paying for whatever you bought, I'll bring you new stuff. Wow. So you bought this hair, I'll bring you another style. So everybody used to say that I used to get a portion of their salary. So it was really just that ingrained commerce and what are people needing, how can I sell to them and cool, that really drove me into finance. Now, what drove me more away from the business side of things into investing was because I just got tired of people owing me. Of debtors, people not paying up. And then I had trucks, drivers, would leave Lagos with a brand new set of tires. And then by the time they returned back from a 2-hour trip, the old tires were exchanged for bad ones. I was just tired of constantly having to pay. I was making money, no doubt, but it was just so much stress on me. So I decided I wanted to find a way to make money passively.
I wanted to ask immediately, what is the difference between building wealth, and making money? Because, like you're saying, people can sell, anything, but wealth has this implication, I don't know whether you feel the same way, that it's
effortless.
It spreads. Like wealth is something more purposeful.
It's a longer term.
It's a longer term. So you see that business I was speaking about.
Right.
If I wasn't actively talking to people about it, I wasn't actively going to you and telling you I had this, I could get referrals, I could get all of those things. But it was an active job I was doing.
Yeah.
Now, when you create wealth, you create something everlasting, something that grows.
Okay.
And you really do that when you invest.
Okay.
That's it. Like I always say that, you see, money, or not savings, they spark. But you see investments, which is really creating wealth, ignites. So you spark something, it's just like you're putting in the lighter, it's just sparking. You can see the light, it's not. But then by the time you build it up and it actually ignites, that's when you build wealth. So it's something that can come and regenerate itself over and over and over again with minimal effort.
Yeah. I've got so many questions on that in a minute. I know you have as well, Sinead.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you before we kind of delve into some of those really practical things of investment and your story and experience. What is your motivation, right? Because for a lot of people, selling things, the thought of investment, we're thinking like it's actually a good idea. But actually, a lot of people's motivation is just because they want more, right? Yeah. It's just because, and I don't necessarily mean for a good reason, sometimes greed-driven or just what we see. We just want to fit more with what we view online or whatever, just the age we live in. We want to just feel like we just have more, bigger all the time. But for you, what's the difference? Like, what actually motivates you? You said you shifted from the business thing because it's active. It's like you've got to be in there. But just behind that, what actually motivates you? You're clearly so passionate about this.
Yes. I think really what motivates me is, number one, I feel like if I'd known what I knew today when I was 21, 22, I would be a billionaire. Like I would be fine. I would be very okay.
In terms of just like your financial understanding.
Yeah, financial understanding. And I see people every day and I feel like they're not taking advantage of the little they have. Like, I feel that's what really I feel like people are not knowing that with the $10, £10, all of those things, you can start to build wealth. That's one of the first things that motivates me, that every single human being can be stupendously wealthy. So far you are in good health. So far you are, God is with you and co. You are not, you don't have issues and Do you understand? You can be stupendously wealthy and we don't know. And nobody's telling us it. Nobody's letting us realize it's super easy to do. You just need to understand the basics, yeah? That's number one. Number two is just around us as Christians. I feel like we are drummed with so much spirituality that people forget that the Bible says, come to this earth. The Bible says he's giving the earth, he has given the sons of men. It says, take dominion here. It says, fund the gospel.
Yeah.
But we're just preaching about Jesus, which is great. But we're not preaching a robust, full knowledge of Christianity. I find that, you see, the reason a lot of people have faith today is because we grind faith into people, but we're not grinding the work into people. And that's what really motivated me, you know, when I started. That was the deepest passion for me. I remember during COVID, like I told you, when I started reading about investment and doing all of those things, I did it for myself because I just wanted to move away from actively chasing people down, you know, to ask for my money. Girl, I sold everything.
Shola is coming for you today.
I sold everything that was sellable. And so I was reading, like, I always say I've read over 350 books on finance. Like, that's why I can tell you for a fact.
Yeah, you knew very clearly.
Most of the books that you read is based on Richest Man in Babylon. Just go read that book, you're fine, you know. And so I remember, that was what I was reading. So I was reading, consuming, you know, learning stocks, investment, all of these things. I was learning it for myself. And then and I'd been praying to God, you know, that God, tell me what's my purpose in this life? Because, I mean, I cannot just be here working, making money and cool. That there has to be something. At this point, my career was okay. I was heading Paramount channels for Africa. This was BET, MTV, MTV Base, MTV, you know. Think of it, those were Paramount channels. That was what I was, Nickelodeon channels, you know, Comedy Central. That was what I was doing. So I was okay career-wise. But I felt like that was not my purpose in life. So I remember going on a jog that day, after praying for over a year, going for a jog that day during COVID, working from home, and God placed it into my heart and said, I want you to talk about money. I want you to talk about this investment. And it was like a light bulb moment. I had never thought, I tell you for free, I had never met a finance influencer in my life at that point. I'd never seen any of them. So it was like a light bulb moment, like, okay, people don't talk about that. All these things that I know, because I'll meet friends, people at that time, people were already asking me, oh, how can Shola, what do you think? And I would say it effortlessly. It wasn't like I would just joyfully tell you, you have this money, don't do it this way. I would say, do it like this, put it this way, put it in this investment, put it in that investment. And everybody just sort of, my friends and family then used to come, but I didn't think of it as anything. But God now told me, that's what I want you to talk about. I tell you, that's why at the end of the day, my brand, which is Wealth Motley, at the end of the day, every time I feel like quitting, which happens virtually every week, I go back and say, God was my source. I didn't start to share this information because, you know, I thought, I didn't even know people needed it. I was just doing it for me. But God told me that you have built enough bank. You see, by that time, I had done the work. I built enough bank of understanding money, understanding this stuff and co. And then it was okay. And so I started to share. So that's how everything came to be. And that's why my source is still back to God. Because I would see people, and I'm not going to lie to you, see people go to church and say that, I want to give to God and give everything. It's good to give everything. But that stuff you gave, is it your bread? Or is it your seed? Yeah. People make that big mistake. There is your seed, which should be taken and planted so that it can grow into fruit that you can make bread from. And then there's your bread. That's already the done product that you can do. You find people take their seed and drop it or eat it and go, that's not how it should work.
Do you think there's a big fear, even this talk, I actually know that there's a fear of talking so frankly with believers about what they should be doing with their finances.
The hardest to speak to.
Yeah. I think I was in church the other day and I said that, you know, we can say, God, come into my life, fix my marriage, fix my broken heart,
Absolutely.
But don't talk to me about my finances. Because even the offering, there's a way we have to say it or...
Exactly.
I know I was taught to take offering before the service begins so that we don't pull on people's emotional strings. You know, it's always a touchy...
Yeah, it's touchy subject.
Finances is just something that's very touchy. And I'm just wondering, because you have this innate passion for it, and it's clearly a God-given passion, how you have been able to continue to bring your faith into your purpose, which is clearly about teaching people and equipping people financially, how you've been able to, how you use your faith, how the things that maybe God has advised you or helped you in order to communicate to his people better.
So what I'm always happy with when I talk about finance, and some of the happiest places I usually speak at churches, where a church or a group of Christians or something say, come and speak to us about money. Because apart from the fact that our parents, nobody really taught us about money, except if you're very lucky that maybe you grew up with accountants or something. Most times, we see church as a place to talk about God, whereas our church is not only about God, it's about our whole life. Yeah. We are robust human beings. We should not only live on spirituality. I remember listening to Pastor Joshua Selman once, and he said that most of us don't have the fullness of God. We focus on the spirituality, which is know God, all of those things, on God's power, which is we cast, we bind, we do all of those things, but we forget the wisdom. Yeah. And that wisdom is what creates wealth.
That's good.
So it's that wisdom that I find that is missing. And so when I get a chance to speak to Christians or to speak to believers in anywhere, it's really around, what are you really doing? Like, I feel like when you pray sometimes, you know when you pray for money, or when you pray, say, God, give me money. I feel like God would look at you and say, my daughter, I've given you wisdom. Yeah. I've given you a brain. Yeah. Go and use it. Yeah. The brain is already there. Because we ignore, there's some, and not to say anything, but if you look at, there's a lot of rich people in this world, like stupendously rich people in this world today, who have no clue about Christianity, or who don't even care about Jesus Christ, who don't even want to hear. They're atheists and go. And they're prospering really well. And guess what? They're not doing anything illegal or immoral. Yeah. They're actually really moral. So that means that there has to be some principles.
Yeah, some wisdom.
Some wisdom that if you follow it, even with your Christian faith and you can make money. Right. Or you can create wealth. So why are we not talking about it? Why are we not investing time and effort as Christians to learn? Because why? Like play. A lot of religions will live on beyond Christianity if we're not careful. Because when you have money, then you fund your God. Do you understand? Then you can go from paying £100 tithe to paying £10,000 tithe because you've invested you can create more wealth. Besides, most of us, especially in my part of the world, we grew up thinking that Christianity is synonymous to being humble, and humble is synonymous to not having money. And then we now criminalize or make those people who preach prosperity, make them look bad. Again, if you go back to what I said about the fullness of Christ in your life, wisdom is where you make wealth. Power is when you pray for God's power to change, move things. Spirituality is your deeper work with him. You can see that prosperity, those who preach purely prosperity, they're just on one side of the divide. People who preach spirituality, pray, they're just on one side of the divide. But you see, we need to find ourselves in the middle. And find the mixture so we can live the fullness. It would be such a sin to come into this earth where the Lord has said, go, dominate, take over the earth. And I was listening to stuff, and he said that there's some things you pray to God for, and God has said he's putting it in the hands of men, the sons of men. So it's about what you sell, what you deliver. And each day I get reminded of the fact that as Christians, the more that we learn about money, understand the wisdom of wealth, and these things are basic principles. Like, they're such basic principles. Save 20% of what you earn. Invest it in a business you know and you understand, or a business you do, or in someone who knows or who understands that business. Watch it grow. But when it grows, save more, give to God, buy your primary home. Like, they're such simple principles. And for me, and that's why when I teach finance, I don't teach it like someone. When I teach investing, I don't teach it like someone who went to finance school. I mean, I have an MBA and all of that, but I don't teach it like that. I teach it like someone, like me and you, with a very basic, simple understanding. Because if you're able to understand it like a 5-year-old would, you will see why it's so easy for you to know it, and it's so foolish for you not to know it.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name's Rachel.
And my name's Sinead, and we'll be your hosts for these episodes as we're joined by incredible women from the Magnify community to chat through their lived journeys and experiences across money, relationships, and work, all from the perspective of their relationship with God.
We know so many of you already watch these conversations, so if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, hit the button now. It really helps this important content to reach even more women around the world and ensures we keep bringing these conversations to you.
We hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it.
Shola, so you were saying, I think it's such a good point. You were talking about prosperity, and almost the other side of the spectrum is poverty. And certainly for Christians, it can be really hard. It can be hard to talk about money because it's really hard to find what's actually healthy in the midst of that. Like you were saying earlier, scripture actually talks so much about money, investing what we have. There's no doubt about that. And people can kind of be at one end of the spectrum. As you were saying before, that's just one part of the story, right?
Yes.
The kind of neo-prosperity gospel, it's one side, but there's these different aspects like wisdom, prosperity in the right sense of like health and the fullness of what that means. But I want to jump back to what you said earlier, because I think that's for me a really key question in this conversation is, what does it mean to fund the gospel? Like, it could mean lots of things, but from your perspective and your story, what does that mean? Because for a lot of people, they'll hear, you know, God wants us to have things, and it kind of just sort of incredibly selfish pursuit, right? When it's come at that end of the spectrum. But what does it mean for you to actually use what you have to build others to fund the gospel? What are some examples of that or stories of that?
Interesting, and thank you for that question. So what it means to fund again, everybody can have different meanings, but for me, what it means to fund the gospel is almost see things in 360 degrees. I give to my church. To be honest, I give to 3 churches every single day or every month that I give out money. And it's because I feel like those churches, they fulfill different needs in my life. But then I'm sitting online and then I look at a church in a place like, Borno, some place in the world where they're persecuted or something, and I give there. I go to a random, maybe my mom's church or something, and I see that they need something and I give it. And cool. I'm interested in Christianity outliving us. Right. Because if we're not careful, I was reading the other day that in Scotland, over 100 churches are on sale.
Yeah.
They're turning it into pubs. There goes where the Bible says we should congregate. The Bible says, do not forsake the congregation of the righteous, whereas we're selling those places. You see, so those are the things that make me fund the scripture, because I'm interested in this good news, the word of the Lord, prospering. Yes. So every opportunity I get, again, when I'm saying give the days of £50, £20, £30, something, that works. And that also goes beyond just, churches or co. It's also interested in individuals. I'm looking at someone and I see that this person's ministry or this person is getting a view of Christianity that is being skewed maybe by circumstance or something, and I give to that person because I want that person, and again, usually spirit-led giving, because I want that person to see that God shows up. Sometimes in places where we don't see. So that's what I call funding, the gospel. You're funding not only churches, not only children, but wisdom, going beyond your own place, funding education of the gospel. It's very important. You hear that they're teaching kids, something that happens in my church, where they teach kids about leadership skills. This was something that I was saying, I was saying earlier that if I had learned what I learned when I was 21 and thereabout, I mean, I'll be balling. I'll be fine, so to speak. But I found that sort of thing. I paid for 10 kids because I feel like kids need to learn these things early. Yeah. So that's what I call funding the gospel, is seeing beyond ourselves. The problem we have is we forget that fundamental law. The only one that I think is most important is love. That love that Jesus Christ preached to us. If you have love in your heart, you will know why you need to give. Yeah. It's no longer like you know why you need to give. Obligation. You will also you will also know why you need to not give your seed. You need to give your bread because you know that once you give that, you are lost. You don't have what else to replicate what it is. You also know that love is such a wholesome thing. It's not, the one that we all, the real one that Christ tells us. It shows you, and I feel like it encompasses everything that we do. That's really what I call funding the gospel. By the time you have love, genuine love for Christ and for the message of Christ, and for people to get that message, you fund it in your own way. Sometimes it's about teaching. You go to somewhere and you teach personal finance for free, or you teach, people for free, because the more people are empowered to understand that their finances and how it works, the more they can give. If you feel I feel like people beat a dying horse in our stuff. Like, you can tell this congregation, these guys are struggling to eat. They don't even have enough to eat. Whereas you are telling them we want to build the church. You're telling them donate. Christ is pushing on their emotions to drop the money they have for Christ and co. But they say they don't have. They don't even have enough to eat. Do you understand? So we can't. You need to empower them to have the money. And you see, the more that's why I feel like finance is such an important stuff. The more you empower people and they can make more money, you have drummed enough spirituality and power into them already. Now when they have money, it's easy for them.
But this is the thing, it's like, where do people start, right? Because church is not a business school. I know there are churches that have business schools and colleges, but we come there, like you said, for the wholeness of a person, to feed your spirit, your mind, your, things like that. How do you take a first step to equip? Because as a pastor, I feel like everyone I think is a pastor. Everyone has a ministry. Your ministry is, again, teaching people the purpose for wealth, how to create wealth. If a pastor's ministry maybe is, just the well-being of his sheep, what steps do we take as leaders, as Christians? Where do we start? What can we start to teach? The basics of, for me, I was taught about sowing, like you were saying about seed. That if you want anything, you have to have a seed. If you want apples, you sow apple seeds. So someone would say, oh, if I want finances, you've got to sow finances, right? That's where I was taught. And it's something that I've seen yield profit. So I believe in that principle. But where can people start?
To learn about stuff. Interestingly, I'll tell you the truth. My search and my life, or everything I do about finances, started in the church. I remember my pastor that day coming to church. I'll never forget that day in my life. Came to church that day, and he said that, he opened a verse. Now I forget the verse, but it's in Proverbs. And the verse, when he read it in the present translation, I think it was a Message translation or TBT translation, it literally translated to, if you spend all you have, you are a fool. And he looked at us, thousands of us sitting there, and literally said, God is telling you that if you spend all the money you have, you are a fool. I have never been called a fool in the church before. So I sat down and we all looked at him intently. And he said, you feel harassed, right? I said, yes. We all said, of course, yes. And everybody was murmuring and saying, what can you say? That's where finances start. It's as simple as that. Everything you have, if you spend all the salary you earned today, you are a fool. Just the way that, your gross salary and your net salary is, or your net income after you've paid taxes. The way that, Charlie removes his taxes, or Home Office, they do their thing before, or they do their thing, HMRC, they do their thing before you see the actual money, You have to decide that you are your own bank. That's the one thing that anybody, and for the simple thing was, I learned it in church, pay yourself first. And people are like, when I get salaries and co, I'm already paid. It's my money and co. But then that money, do you buy clothes from it? Yeah, but I want to wear the clothes. Do you buy shoes? Yes. So that means your money actually leaves you. It goes to the person selling clothes. You want to eat food, your money leaves you. So what exactly stayed for you? That's where you start. And the easiest way to say is tell yourself 10% of my money is mine to keep. I say 20%, but I feel like 10% doesn't cut it in this world again. So I say 20% of your money, whatever you earn, is yours to keep. You see, this simple rule that it sounds like. So when you earn, let's say £1,000 a month, you need to live like you actually earn £800. Right. Everything in your life must fit into £800. That's the simple thing. You see, I always tell people that try this thing for 3 months. What I've said, for 3 months. If your money doesn't grow, I'm not saying your wealth. I'm just saying, not the money you've saved. If that doesn't grow, come back and say that I met a lady and she told me this and she's a liar. I'm telling you. It's almost like when you do that for 3 months and it's like money, it's like you're signaling to God and saying, God, now I'm able to manage £100. It's like that law of talent. That's where it starts from. Now, the next step is once you've put that money together, you need to find for it profitable employment. I always say that your money is your slave. That's why there's no need. The Bible was very right when it said there's no need to love money. Your money will cleave to you. It will cleave to you with all its dear life if you find for it profitable investment. It's as simple as that.
Some people's rebuttal to that might be, in a cost of living crisis, right? What do I do? Like, I'm really like, you know, you're saying about money can be a slave to it. It's like, I am a slave to this money right now, right? Not everyone, but that can be a lot of people's experience. Or just they see that, say the 10% of saving or investing is £100, and people just think, what's the point? Like, what difference? Or even if they have it, like, what difference is that actually going to make? What is your like really practical wisdom on that? Like, if you have a small amount that you can actually have the habit and the practice and the discipline of saying, I can put this to aside every month. What's your practical advice on the back of that in terms of creating wealth, really?
Okay. Very interesting, and thank you for that question. What if I told you that every month, if you put aside £100 only and invested it in a simple exchange traded for an ETF, like in UK, it will be the XLKS, which is an ETF that tracks technology companies. What if I told you that after 20 years of putting just £100 every single month, you could have up to £500,000?
Oh, yeah.
You would think I'm lying, right? But if I told you that this particular ETF has given an average of 20% every single year for the last 15 years, an average of 20%, where can you invest your money today without lifting a muscle that would give you that sort of returns? Where? So when I look at people, it is practical. People forget that time and compound interest is one of the best things that God gave us. Compound interest. I invest £100 every single month. For this year, it's £1,200. By next year, 20% has grown on it. I have an extra £240 added to that £1,200. I invested again, 20% plus on it. Before you know, your money is going right again without you doing anything. Your money is doing the work. People don't realize that. Now, let me come back to you when you say that, cost of living crisis. Do you use an iPhone? Have you ever invested in Apple shares?
No, ma'am.
We are trained to be consumers. Yes. You want to wear clothes, but you want to wear something maybe affordable. So you don't go for, the mint velvets or co. So you go for the H&Ms and the Zaras and, push it up maybe with some Primark and co. But at the end of the day, you are still getting something. Do you understand? You're still paying money for it, for those clothes and co. And you're still telling yourself, I can't be looking like I'm suffering. I mean, you need to appear the way you should be addressed and co. Now, I look at people, I also say that, what if you lost your job? There was a lady that came to me, I'll give you a practical example. She told me that, Solafunmi, I really wanted to buy, she's in Nigeria, so I really wanted to buy a car. And she was earning 120,000 naira each month. But she really wanted a car because she felt like she just didn't like the way she was going. So each month, she used to save 80,000 naira each month. And so I said, how did you save 80,000 naira on a 120? Said, I would, I didn't buy clothes. I was staying at home with my parents. I was car sharing with my friends. I was just I took food from home and co. Okay, so now you've bought the car, which is a depreciating asset, by the way.
Yep.
It's a liability. You have to keep servicing, you have to buy fuel, you have to do all of those things. Now you've bought the car. So what happened with that 80? I said, so did you die when you were living on 40? So you didn't die. So it goes back to the stuff that it is our motivations.
Yeah.
That's the critical thing. Most of us have debt from college, from all of those things that we still carry to tomorrow. They remove all of that money from your salary and go, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Remove all of those things. And you are still living. So if you don't change your mindset about the fact that I'm intentional about wealth. So what I tell myself is every single day that I put money aside now, I'm buying a day in the future when I don't have to work. That's enough motivation for you. So I would tell you for a fact, even if you earn £1,000 today, if you sit down, you can live on £900. I'll tell you for a fact. If you cannot live on £900, then you are living above your means. And most of us don't want to have that conversation. You are living above your means. If you are earning £2,000 today and you cannot put aside £200, you are living above your means. And you need to tell yourself the truth.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the truth. You are living above your means. And nobody has to tell you, because at this point, if I'm sitting down, so what if you lost that's the problem. A lot of us in the world, we are one paycheck away from poverty. One paycheck just doesn't have to come in. One paycheck. We're even lucky in this side of the world, in the UK and co, because at least you have some support, security, all of those things you can file for. But in Nigeria, we would say you are one chronic disease away from abject poverty. We're talking of abject poverty. One chronic illness away. And that's what I've seen. I tell you for free. There was someone I counseled in one of my sessions, and he worked for an oil and gas company. You know, oil. I mean, this is where the money is. He worked for an oil and gas company for 14 years of his life. And then he got laid off. And the next month, he couldn't pay his kids' school fees. The kids had to leave their posh schools and go. Now, this was someone for 14 years. You couldn't say you were living with, part of the 1%, top 1% in Nigeria. And you couldn't pay your kids' school fees. So people don't realize that they're actually living hand to mouth. Yeah. And they're depending on their salary. And back to what I said, they're serving the God of Mammon. Because if that money doesn't come in, you are doomed. Just once. And you see, these things happen. And then when it happens to you, I remember teaching personal finance so much to people and co. And then it happened to me last year when I used to work for one of the biggest companies in the world and co. And then the layoffs happened and I was unfortunately affected. So now I had to leave my own theories. I had to leave on all those things I was telling people that have emergency fund, have all of these things. I had to leave on my emergency funds. And I was thankful to God that I was not just preaching that story, I was living it.
Done it. Yeah.
My husband was so happy. He was like, oh my God. You are a real virtuous woman.
Yeah. I love how you said I lived it.
I had to go through it.
Yeah, I love that because for me also, it wasn't until I lost a job or my dad said, oh, you're going to pay that year of law school yourself. And I thought, who me? Like me, sometimes it's only the lived experience that can get our attention. I wish it wasn't the case. And even now, all this knowledge is out there. I mean, you exist, right? Even one person exists like you. And yet, people don't grasp this knowledge. And I've heard certain terminology like scarcity mindsets, limiting beliefs. And I just wanted to ask you, sometimes you're pumping this wisdom into people, but people can't seem to take hold of it. What are some of the limiting beliefs people have that you can essentially destroy? Yeah.
So there's multiple, and the more that I see these things, I see the multi-layered aspect to it. And what do I mean by that? The first, for anyone, most limiting belief I see is people feel like their £150, £20 can go a long way. Okay. That's the worst thing. It would go so much. Like when I started investing, I remember there was a day I bought shares of 1,500 naira. 1,500 naira is not up to £1. Easy. Yeah. It's not up to £1. And I bought shares. I remember buying Apple shares of it. I had, like we call it in Nigeria, extra 2K. It's supposed to be money that you just throw around and someone asks for and co. I remember having that and saying, let me put it on this app, Jerry, let me buy Apple shares.
Yeah.
And the day that I see those things and I see where my shares and my stocks and all of those things are doing today, I'm thankful to God that I didn't let those things limit me. So the number one thing is we think that we need a lot of money to start.
Okay.
No.
Was it just the discipline for you of doing it at that time?
So yes, I'm quite disciplined when it comes to, but I think for me, it was the joy of seeing my money grow.
Yeah.
It was the joy of me not having to chase someone to give me the money. Do you understand? It was the joy that all I had to do was put my money here, and I would look at Tim Cook and say, "Guy, you better walk your butt off. This money, this shares has to grow."
Yeah.
Do you know? So that's how it works for me. That's the number one limiting belief. Number two that I see with a lot of us is we're still struggling with poverty mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people of our color and co, we have that ingrained into us. We feel like we never have enough to give. We never have enough to invest. We're still not eating. That's even the question is that the money's, you will find out that if that source of income was taken away, you would leave. Now, how about you build? Do you know what I just told you? If you save just 20% of your salary, every month, 20%, or let's even say 10%, in 10 months, thereabouts, a whole 1 month salary is already saved. A whole, it's as simple as that. Is that for me? That's what motivates me. So now, if I save for the next 20% of my salary for the next 10 months, I would have 2 months whole salary, that I will sit down with and I can invest. Now, the next mistake I see people make, they've saved all of that money and they'll be like, I've arrived. I finally did this. So they go into the next store and blow all the work. Because you see, we see money and we think consumer, consume. We never think product. We never think production. And until you change your mind from someone who consumes to someone who owns,
it's really a mindset shift.
It's a mindset. You need to change your stuff. So if you see me buy an iPhone, just know that I've spent that same amount to own that company. Because if you look at companies that we're evangelists of, I'm such a huge fan of Tesla. I don't own one yet. But I'm such a huge fan because I've seen the tentacles they've built in the EV world. So I own a nice portfolio of EV shares. If you see something that you love that way, that not only you love, but they have traction around the world, that's something to invest in. That's something to put your money in. That's two. Number three that I see limiting mindset is, it's almost like when we talk about, when someone is out there talking to you about money and saying how you can make money and cool, people believe that person is a thief and trying to steal from you. And unfortunately, it's men. The most trolls that I see on my page are men who are coming to say, you're a liar, it's your husband that is giving you money, or you are a prostitute, that's not where you're getting money from. And it's almost like people are not used to people coming out to say that this is how you can make money. People are, because what traditionally will happen in our society is when someone has a lot of money, they say, we thank God, God has been good, I prayed, I fasted. But they're not telling you, this is where you should put your money in. Nobody did. So when someone is openly, without charging you a dime, saying, go and put your money in this place. This is where I put my money. I don't own the company. You're not giving me anything. The company is not paying me to influence. Go and put your money in this place. This is where it's growing. People think you are just lying. And again, it goes back to that limiting belief because they've just always thought that people don't say the truth about money. Do you see what I'm saying? So you fight that every day when I say it. And that's why I always go back and say, I don't own whatever I tell you to buy. The companies don't pay me a dime. I'm investing in it the same way you're investing. If you don't invest in it, there's multiple, investment companies in the world who invest billions and billions in this thing. Your $2,000 or $1,000, it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. But that $1,000 today can become $10,000 in 2 months, in 2 or 3 years, because you took the right decision. Without you, again, lifting a muscle, the best minds in the industry are working for you for free. When you own an Apple stock, Tim Cook is not sleeping every day because I am a shareholder with my 0.1% share of Apple, and he's going to make sure that I'm happy. Same thing works for Sundar Pichai of Alphabet. He works his butt off to make sure that I make money. Why are you not letting your money do the work for you? I look at us and it's like, there's no matter how much you want to work, how strong you are. If you're on this set for 24 hours, you will start to crash. Your body will just start to give, you will start to say the wrong things, you will forget your lines, you do all of those things. But you see your money, no. Your money will work 24/7, 365 days. It will work, it will outlive you, outlive your children. If you find for it profitable investments, let it keep growing. That's why we heard the names of Rockefellers and all of these people around the world today.
Yeah.
They freaking took the ideas they saw in their head, turned it into corporations, turned it into businesses, into stuff that make money, generational money that's outlived them. But their names are still being here, even if they are not Christians.
Yeah.
How many Christians
Yeah.
have you heard their name?
I think it's so interesting because there are so many principles, especially in Proverbs, like about wisdom and prosperity. I think that was the first book of the Bible that I started to see. There's too much in the Bible about finances. And again, I was lucky enough that I was brought up in a way that you have the ability to gain wealth. The Bible actually says God gives you the power to gain wealth. So it was something that wasn't frowned upon. But then the balance of that is always wanting to be a giver, give generously, sometimes emotionally giving, and you don't actually have the bread to keep giving this way. And what you said about kingdom, something that's really passionate to me, and I think a lot of people in our community that want to keep giving generously, but sorry, I can't get my words out, that want to keep giving generously, but they're kind of stuck with the balance of things. And I think you have laid down really good principles of how to judge.
I'll tell you something for free. What I give to God is a percentage.
Okay.
And no matter how great the pastor who's teaching that day is, I know the percentage based on the fact that if I give more than this, I won't be able to save, I won't be able to eat, I won't be able to do all of those things. So determine that. You see, the problem we have is we don't have a percentage that you've allocated in your mind for God. Do I change my mind when I see that there's a need? Oh yeah, I'm happy to. But again, it's always in the miscellaneous. I've already put that 5% there that if something happens, this is what I'm able to use.
Planned to be generous almost.
I've planned, thank you. I've planned that stuff, but I never go beyond those boundaries.
Yeah.
We usually look at ourselves and we sadly, a lot of churches and co are tapping into that emotional. A lot of people, what they know in church about money is just giving. Give, it shall be given unto you. Give, it shall be given unto you. Press down, shaking that. It's true. The Bible does not lie. But don't give stupidly.
Yeah.
Don't.
It's the kind of tension of stewardship. And the parable of the talents and investing with generosity. You can't give what's not yours, right?
And the word you said was determine. One thing I was raised to do was you decide ahead of time what you're going to give before you get there, so that no one can sway you.
You already know the amount. And the thing is, the Bible says give generously, willingly. Most of that giving is not generously, it's not willingly. Because people can't afford it, or you are emotionally driving them to do it. I can, speak to you emotionally, you need to do this and you will find the money, but you don't actually have it.
And
do you understand? And that money is not even, it's not what the way that the Bible wants us to give. Do you understand? You give because you plan for it, you've proposed for it. I find it that the most wicked people are people who don't plan to give to God. Plan, even if it's 2%. 2%, give it generously with your heart. This belongs to God. Pray on it and give it. You want to sow a seed, give it generously. Again, it's fine that when you don't have money, some pastors will say, if it's not enough, it's a seed, sow it and go. I mean, it's good for a lot of people who believe in it. Personally, the way that again, God knows us. He knows his child. He knows what he put inside you. He knows that this Solafunmi that he brought into this head too, she will not give her money like that. She will give it this way, but she won't. So you have to plan the way you give. And that goes even for black tax. You know what we've done? A lot of us don't realize that we have given other people unlimited access to our money. What do I mean by that? You earn £2,000 and you decide that, I cannot go flexing in the night because there goes £300 of my money. Do you understand? So you chill. You just stay within your means and go. But then you speak to a pastor in church who says, we need to build this thing. You need to give to God. You need to do this. You need to do that. You bring out that money. That pastor has unlimited access to your money. That's number one. Number two, what if you have a lot of us, who have family back in Africa and that you always have to send money to and go, let's say that person needs let's say school bag. You probably need a bag, but you didn't buy for yourself because you decided that, let me just manage where I am. I still have to eat. I still have to pay house rent, do all of those things. So you give this person the money for the bag. The bag is not the person's main issue. It's not their biggest problem in this world, but you give it. So the next thing, the person says, this auntie can afford bag. Now she needs to help me pay my school fees. So the person doesn't ask you for a bag again. They go back and say, my sister, they've sent me away from school. Oh, what am I going to do? So again, you deprive yourself. Imagine you can do something and then you send that money and say, it's school fees. The emotional part of you is school fees. If they don't go to school, what's going to happen? They will not be able to grow in life. So you find your money. Again, you deprive yourself. You make that their problem, your own priority. So you see, like little by little, you are giving people unlimited access to your money. Right. Access even you don't have on your money. Yep. That's where we get it wrong. Yeah. And that's why you see those simple things of budgeting, 5% here, 2% here, and co. It is extremely important.
Yeah.
After I've removed the first thing I remove for my money every month is savings and investment. Once I remove that, what is on the table is what we have to live on.
Yeah.
And everybody knows in my house what is on the table. After we've given to God, what is on the table is what we have. There's nothing outside of it.
Yeah.
If we have to drink, this is the money. And everybody will feel, and you find out that, like play, you do two things for yourself. Number one, you force yourself to live in a box. That box that you've created for yourself. Let me give you a practical example. I know we don't have that much time left. Yeah, practical example. If you earn $2,000, £2,000 each month, and you say you listen to Solafunmi, she says that we should save 20%. So you decide that I will be living on £1,600, yeah? And so if you were living in a house that was, you downsize, you find a smaller flat, or you live with someone or something. So you force yourself to live on £1,600. It might be hard the first month. The second month becomes slightly easier. You found ways to cut, stuff, do all of these things. So like play. You're saving £400 every single month. You're starting to live on £1,600. You've built your life into that box of £1,600. Now you get a better job that starts to pay you £3,000. Remember, you have forced yourself to live with £1,600. So you decide that actually I don't want to go mad. Let me live life a little. Let me splurge a little. Let me improve my spending from £1,600. Let me maybe take it up to £2,000 now because I have an extra £1,000, to play with now. But you see, that's the secret, because now if you wanted to, you could be living that life of £1,600 because you forced yourself into that thinking.
Yeah.
But most of us never. And you know what happens with that? You used to save 20% of your salary. Now you are almost saving 50% of what you earn.
Okay, yeah.
If you were going to stay in that, but you see, we don't take that first step of creating that box for ourselves. I always say that it's only in investment that you're allowed to be a size 16 and you will sew a cloth of size 8 and you will push yourself into it. It is only in investing that is allowed.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's, if you look at it, it's so little stuff like that. And some of us, when we start with that 1,600, saving the £400 each month, doing all of those things, the second we get a salary increase to 3,000, guess what? Everything around us starts feeling like it's low budget. You now upgrade yourself. And then before you know it, you go from being able to live comfortably on 1,600. You go and decide that you now have to live on 2,400. You're still saving 20%, but you have gone. Whereas you should take advantage of the 1,600 that you've done for yourself. I used to tell my friends when I was in Nigeria that my son's school fees, even though he was going to a great school and all of those things, on my 1 month salary, I could afford to pay his school fees 20 times. It was because I had conditioned myself. This boy is going to go to a great school. That's great, affordable, really good school. I'm going to make sure he has extracurricular activity, play sports, play all of these things, and still be affordable. I told myself, I had friends who had schools, who had kids in private schools where they had to be paying per month. They weren't even paying for a term. That was how expensive the school was, that they had to be paying per month. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because I had positioned myself that this is what the box I'm going to live in. So we had a robust life in that box I created. Most of us never let that box exist. And that's the reason why most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They refuse to have that box, create that box. That lifestyle inflation is what kills us.
Yeah, it's lifestyle creep. And I think you say it's a mindset, isn't it? Discipline and mindset. Shola, thank you so much for all of the wisdom and the passion that you shared in this conversation. It's been super helpful. As a community, we always just love to know, like, how can we support you? Where can we find you online? Like, where can we benefit from, like, your wisdom as well? So
I have Wealth Monthly, which is my page I opened independently. I mean, when people see me, when they go on LinkedIn and they look at my page and, they see your career and all of those things, and then I say, no, actually go to Instagram or go to TikTok and go and check Wealth Monthly. They're like, that's you, but then that's also you. Yes, I have a whole different life when it comes to wealth creation, which is Wealth Monthly. That's on any platform you'll find Wealth Monthly. And that's where I share my very simple finance knowledge, usually for free. Usually for free. That's just go there. There's learnings that would change your life. I remember someone reaching out to me a couple of days ago, and he said that you told me something in 2020 that I should invest in this ETF and stock. And this ETF has gone on to turn my money over 200%, beating inflation. Wow. And it was for free. That I don't know why people are not seeing these things. But you see on the internet, things like that don't go viral.
Yeah, that's true.
They never go viral.
It doesn't work.
That's something. They never go viral. So that's where I am. Wealth Monthly, happy to share. I share information on personal finance, on savings, on investment, and just generally living a life where you're trying to grow wealth, on wherever you are, whatever you are. It speaks to anyone, but very importantly, I try to speak to a lot of us who are following the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Shola, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All of your wisdom and your help, and we look forward to following you online as well.
Thank you. Lovely to speak to you, ladies.
Amazing.
Thank you for joining us for today's conversation. We hope you gleaned as much from it as we did.
You can join us to cultivate wisdom, be inspired, and gain knowledge on how to put your best foot forward in your career, money, and relationships, all grounded in faith as we grow together.
If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all of our episodes at the Magnify Conversations.
If you have a story to share and would like to be featured on the conversations, get in touch with Team Magnify through magnifycollective.com and head to our contact form.
We'll see you soon for another installment. From all of our team and crew, have a great week.